Do you believe that at this point the biopharma industry's interest in orphan drug development has reached its peak? Or do you think that we will still see more activity and more investment in drugs for rare diseases?
Yeah. I don't think it's reached its peak, and I think we will see continued investment. I think the reason is that when we look at the new technologies that are emerging in our industry, a lot of it is genetic-based technology, and many of the rare diseases are based on genetic mutations and genetic defects. So the new technologies are going to first seek out those diseases where they can have the biggest impact. Now, monogenic diseases where one gene is implicating the disease are the easiest place to start, and that's where you've seen a lot of the innovation start. But this is true with a lot of rare diseases. In fact, there's new ones being discovered every month, in a publication. So I think you're going to continue to see people find solutions, cures, right, an impact on these disease areas. I think as certain areas get more crowded, let's say Duchenne as an example, I think there's more than a dozen companies that have products in the clinic. One, there aren't enough patients to enroll all of those studies, so you have a lot of competition. Not everybody can sustain the rare disease pricing model when you've got 3, 4, 5 drugs approved in a specific disease area. And so I think you're going to start to see more discernment and differentiation between disease-modifying agents, ones that have a bigger impact on the disease, and let's say an anti-inflammatory, anti-fibrotic, where it could treat a broader array of diseases, but they've focused on one specific rare disease for the business model. But I do think that it's still an area that's ripe for innovation. Most of the rare diseases don't have anything out there available to treat these patients. And so I think that's why it hasn't reached its peak. However, I think it will come under more scrutiny around the business model, the kind of evidence to support the treatment effect. But I don't think companies are going to stop doing research in rare disease.
And what are some of the other factors that you consider still spurring the interest in rare diseases and in subpopulations of broader disease areas?
Well, I think one of the reasons, besides the idea of the technology matching up with the understanding of the biology of disease and the genetic basis of disease, is it's a more accelerated pathway to find an answer. Okay, it may not be as accelerated to get a drug approved, but usually in these diseases, they're terminal, they're highly progressive. You see the evidence of what happens without treatment more noticeably. Not in every case, but in many cases. And so when you have an intervention that is going to have an impact on that disease, you should be able to find it in a small population relatively quickly, let's say over a year, or 2 at the most. And so I think as that is very appealing to the business model of research and drug development, because if your technology is not working and it's not going to have an impact, you're also going to know it quickly. And so I think that that's an appeal where you could, on a 100-patient study, or a 50-patient study, or in the case of Advocacy, the FDA is saying a 30-patient study will be sufficient in a disease where they understand the outcomes and how poor the outcomes are without intervention. It's the same reason that you see a lot of companies going into stage 4 relapse refractory metastatic pancreatic cancer, right? Is because they know that those patients aren't going to live more than 6 months, and if they're still living after a year, well, you've had an impact, right? The same thing is true with rare diseases that are highly progressive, irreversible, and in many cases terminal.
If you want to hear more from Chris and other thought leaders in the orphan drug industry, make sure to join us on April 20th and 21st in Washington, D.C. at the World Orphan Drug Congress USA 2017. Thank you.